Captain's Log Supplemental.
Hey Jeremy, you know those race cars you're busy building?
Yeah, I do.
You,
I
you,
got one
you
that I'm looking at every day.
you know what I don't see you working on?
You don't see me working on the amazing Sentinel system yet.
That's true. It would take all of 10 minutes for you to have one.
And it's very quick and easy to install.
It is. It is. And we could watch you when we are not at the race with you and see how you're doing. And then we can call you up when you get out of the car and tell you everything you did wrong.
And I love that because so many years I've been driving and not been able to see what I'm doing.
I know.
And now we can.
I know. You know what I'd like to do with the video? My most favorite thing is I take the video and I load it on YouTube and then I send it to my coach and say, look at 26 minutes and 17 seconds. Look at this one lap and tell me what I can do better. And every single time, you know what they say?
Everything.
Exactly. Precisely. So with the Sentinel system, you get instantaneous feedback plus useful feedback that unfortunately is accurate for my driving.
I think it's accurate for all of our driving.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's probably true. Yep. But you need to get one in your car, sir.
Yes, I do. And with the discount code that you're going to tell everybody, they can save 10% on this awesome system.
Yep. Trouble free. I haven't had an issue getting video every time we've gone out with the Sentinel. It's always worked. Can't say the same for some of the other systems we've tried. So I don't know. It's on the podcast notes down there. Don't do it while you're driving, though. We like to have our listeners live. It's good.
From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I found my microphone and I'll be hosting. My name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicki.
Yes, you're Vicki with an exclamation point today because you finally feel post-race hangover.
I do. I was a hot mess this week.
Yep.
I was a hot mess, probably for the last 2 weeks, but I finally got some energy back. So yeah.
Guess who's back? Bulldozer's back.
I am back. I am
right.
back. I'll do my best not to.
Yeah, you will fail miserably, but that's
I
fine.
will still do my best. Look, I'm going to get my notepad right now.
That's okay. We'll see. I'm too far away to have any control of this podcast, so I'm just going to strap in and hold on. Speaking of somebody who has to hold on, we have a guest. He has pioneered for his family into the world of motorsports because he came from a family who really wasn't into it, and he paved the way. And something tells me with his enthusiasm, he may be having some people get sucked in behind him. So we may have the beginning of a dominating family. Anyway, began volunteering, worked his way up through HPDE ladder system, primarily with Great Lakes. Can't blame him there. Great organization to learn from.
Really is.
And somebody who started at zero, obviously they would never be able to finish fourth in the national race last year, but he did. And we figured we'd invite him onto the podcast to apologize because he was the instructor for our daughter at her first ever HPDE after she had 8 full days of driving experience with her license. So welcome to the podcast, Brian Parrish.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I will have to say that having your daughter as a student was absolutely awesome. So fulfilling, and I'll tell you why. And I'm not just sucking up because
you can suck up. Vicki won't mind.
Graciously offered me the platform to hang out with you guys. She was one of those students that came in from the beginning, had, the right goals in mind for the level. She didn't come in, she wanted to go racing. She wanted to come in and learn car control and get better. And, just identify where the opportunities were and grow from there. And she was receptive and she just said, "Yep, just tell me what I need to do." And on Saturday morning, we did our first session and I got a good feel for where she was. Wow. By the end of Sunday, actually by the third session out of a total of four, she was knocking my socks off.
Oh, wow.
Everything that we talked about, she was applying, and she was just really, the one thing that she was doing so well, she was killing those turns. Um, I, I was so incredibly impressed. I, I chose to just sit back and watch her. I'll give you the feedback at the end. Just
Okay.
do your thing. And then in the fourth session, do it again. Normally we cool down. I just want you to have fun. Keep the car on the track, but have fun. And she did. She really delivered.
Oh,
That's awesome.
wow. That is awesome.
Yeah.
So I think Bill had already told you when Mia got her license, there were 3 requirements that we had of her. Bill, you want to tell them?
Wow, there's more than I'm not sure. I have more than 3, but that's okay.
Oh, well,
Go ahead.
go ahead. No,
I'm not
you go
sure
ahead.
which ones. I'm not sure which ones you want to talk about.
Well, we did said she had to do 2 driver sessions,
2 HPDEs.
2 HPDE. So I'm counting those as 1, 2. And the third one is that she had to go into a car control clinic. And just so she can learn not just car control, but defensive driving and what to expect. So we did that with my son, and we actually felt a whole lot safer with him on the road with friends in the car than if it was vice versa.
Yeah, it's
Um,
amazing how much we learn going through the HPDE program, and then we get to go drive home, and
mhm,
awareness that we have of other cars or what our car capabilities are, or if we get into trouble. I mean, I immediately thought of a situation where I was able to save myself with such a high level of confidence on an icy road one afternoon or one evening, and it was all because of the practice that I get and the training that I've gotten through NASA's NASA Great Lakes, specifically HPDE program.
mhm,
Oh yeah, it's great. And I have a 16-year-old. She just got her permit, and we're working on the driving. And I have plans to put her through a teen defensive driving course. My son is 23. He went through the teen defensive driving course.
mhm,
And one of my rules is when it snows, the first time that it snows during the season, we're going to a parking lot and you're doing
mhm.
donuts.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
You have to understand, it's fun, but you have to understand what the car is going to do with every input possible.
Mhm.
You got to know, because then when you're out on the road, it's more muscle memory.
And honestly, that if you happen to, a cop shows up, you'd say exactly what you're doing. I said, I'm teaching my kid car control because I don't want him to end up in a snowbank or through an intersection. So he has to learn. So we're on a vacant lot at a vacant place, and we're just trying to teach my kid this. But yeah, and the other thing that we did with my son, who was 23, and the budding testosterone that comes with being 23 in cars, is that our stipulation was
17.
save it
17 when you
17.
started.
Yeah, save it for the track. And we put him in HPDEs, and we made sure that he attended with his car at HPDEs. And then I don't think he actually went to a race event with us, but he certainly did the HPDEs with us.
He did a couple races.
Yeah. So yeah, he did. But that was the, I think, got him through. But I don't really remember him ever really getting speeding tickets or getting in any accidents or anything like that. Just because he has that.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so Brian, just for your information, we do goals when we go to an HPDE, and Mia tolerated me slightly by I said she had to have three goals, and her first goal was to try the HPDE out and see if she liked it.
Yep,
Her
check.
her her second goal was to sleep, and her third goal was I'm pretty great because she was tired of my game, and that was her goal. So I don't think she was saying she's a great driver. I think she was just saying all around she's great. But that's
She's great.
that's you know this is the
Well,
life of.
she gets my stamp of approval for being great. And I remember a couple of those sessions. So, what'd you do since your last session? Slept.
Hmm.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
we
Are
know
you
that.
ready to go now? Yep, I'm ready to go. And sure she was.
She's not overly chatty.
No,
No,
she's not.
but
She's
once she
not.
starts, she doesn't stop. So
Yeah.
kind of like her
Yeah.
mom. Um.
I'm not co-signing on that one.
So before we get to you, because it's just way too much fun to pick on my daughter, how mad was she when she spun out the one time and I got to pass her and wave?
First thing she said. So it was turn 16, 17, so 17 at that point. And she, we go off. She did everything right. She went off straight. And I was like, "How are you?" She said, "I'm good." I said, "Did you put both feet in?" Uh, what? That's okay. Is the car still running? No. All right. Um, well, get it started. Take a deep breath, and let me tell you how many times I've gone off in this exact spot. And
Hmm.
she said, "Yeah, it's okay. I'm okay that I went off." But my dad passed us right as we were going off. I'm just mad that he saw me go off.
Hmm. We have a team tradition where we wave to each other as we go by. Sometimes uh not all the fingers are used, but since it was my daughter, I gave her a thumbs up as opposed to the usual team wave, but that's okay.
Yeah. Sometimes we actually honk we go by when our families are doing it.
Hmm. It's part of the fun. All right. Well, we've wasted the 30 minutes of an intro, so let's pretend that we're starting
That
over.
was fun though.
That's fun. It's a good time. The world's longest intro. Um, so I said kind of briefly what you kind of talked to me about a bit.
Yep.
Let's go into it a little bit deeper with how you got started, because it sounds like you came from a family of non-motor competitive
Yeah.
background, and you've done pretty well, sir.
I have done well and I've had a great time and I've been able to bring my family along with me on the journey and they're super, super supportive. Um, so just intro, for me, and then I'll kind of talk about that journey. So I am a racer with NASA Great Lakes. I'm in the ST6 class. I race a Miata. I had one Miata and I just bought another one last week. So coming up here for Mid Ohio, I'll be in an NB Miata, bright green. Watch out for me. I'm an MSF level 2 certified instructor that fits right seat for the HPDE 1 program right now with NASA. I'm a divisional starter with SCCA. I'm also a pit and grid marshal with the Ohio Valley Region SCCA. Um, Racing, I'm supported and sponsored by Midwest Miata Parts. My parents, the Pam and Kevin Parrish Parental Fund, as I like to call it, because they will kick over dollars to help me. And then my family is super supportive, so I always shout out my Autumn and David Ellis hospitality because my sister and brother all show up with the food and
Oh,
chairs, and there's always enough for everybody. And they bring my nephew and my niece, two nephews now, and they're super into the racing. They love it. So I think Bill was right. Somebody's following in these footsteps, which is really cool. And I get to be the cool uncle.
nice.
While this is like relatively new to me, my nephews and my niece, they know me as a race car driver, which I think that absolutely,
That's fantastic.
yeah. So I've
That
been doing it
really is
about,
fantastic.
yeah. So I've been doing it, doing all this about 13 years. Um, I'm a driver. I love driving. I'm a good teammate. I'm a good volunteer. But my actual car knowledge and mechanical knowledge is pretty limited. I didn't have, as you said, Bill, I didn't have a background in motorsports. I didn't watch racing on TV. I didn't know anybody. Nobody around me was working on cars, but I've always been obsessed with driving. It started actually with bicycles, or
Hmm.
it started, I was riding bikes as a kid through the neighborhood. Or,
Did you have Hot Wheels?
that was my next. I had Hot Wheels galore. I had the tracks. I had everything. I still have some of the Hot Wheels that I had as a kid. I have a '57 T-Bird. It's maroon
Mhm.
metal flex with rubber Goodyear tires on a Hot.
I
And that,
remember those.
yes,
I
so
remember
much fun.
those. We had my son's Hot Wheels. We had some Hot Wheels. Like I didn't grow up with Hot Wheels, but
Hmm.
as soon as my son started getting Hot Wheels, that's when Bill and I started making tracks through the house with the Hot Wheels.
Yes, they're so much fun. So much fun. So I usually keep one close to my desk when I'm working. It's to me, it's the original fidget spinner, just to play with a Hot Wheels on my desk. Um, and of course, I played all the racing video games. Like anytime we went to an arcade or Chuck E. Cheese or whatever it was, I was straight to pole position or skee ball because you get tickets and free stuff.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but it was always, the racing. I love to drive that, and that's it. My family is all from New Jersey, and so anytime we go to New Jersey, the pace picks up, and
Mhm.
I couldn't
Kind of it.
wait. Well, tiny bit, right?
Yeah,
On
yeah.
the Garden State Parkway. And now, I mean, ever since I got my driver's license, every time I hit the parkway, something just snaps and I go and I get to have fun with my people on the highway anyway.
Hmm.
But it's cool to be able to do this racing thing. Um, so with having no background, I had an interest in figuring out how I get close to racing. I used to see racing on Speed Channel, but then when a commercial would come up, I'd flip the channel because, quite frankly, it's boring. If you don't know what you're watching or why you're watching, it's boring to watch cars go around in
Mhm.
circles, even if it's a road course. But I watched one from the very beginning, and it was the pre-race, like where they do the pre-race interviews and you get to know the drivers.
Hmm.
And I
Mhm.
saw, there were certain drivers that I liked, certain drivers that I didn't think had a really good attitude. And then the race came on, and for the first time, I knew a few of the people who were behind the wheel just because of that pre-race.
Right.
I got so excited watching that race, and I was
You're
cheering.
invested now.
You're invested when you can make that connection.
Right.
And I realized after that race, like, wow, I really do like this stuff. I'm gonna go try it again. And I've really got to figure out a way to get close. So I found out how to volunteer through the SCCA. Within a couple days, I was sitting in my very first race car, not mine, but the very first race car I ever would sit in. By that April, so this is a few months later, I'm doing fire and safety training, surrounded by a bunch of firefighters who are also going through the training, putting out
Wow.
car fires, using the jaws of life to cut doors off of a car. And then the next time, for the next couple of years, I was volunteering for club races, pro races. So Xfinity, NASCAR Xfinity,
Hmm.
IMSA, which was Grand Am at the time, American Endurance Racing. And then I got to know racing from the inside out. I met
Mhm.
Dan Hinchcliffe before I ever saw him on TV. I met
Wow.
Ryan Hunter Ray before I ever knew who he was, and all these other personalities. I met Travis Pastrana and asked him if I could introduce him to my sister. And we watched him on X Games growing up. And so this world just opened up, and
Mhm.
it's been a cool journey from there.
And it is an entire it's almost like a timeline. Whatever you were doing before, this is now your timeline and you're following it. It's really kind of weird. Um, yeah, whatever your hobbies were before, it's like this is a trajectory, and it's difficult not to make it who you are,
Mhm.
but because the thing is like when you start talking to people, you wrap yourself so much around it that sometimes people just start to glaze. I know they glaze over when I start talking about cars, but just in general, it does become part of your persona at some point.
And it's a pretty cool persona to have,
Yeah.
because out there in the civilian world, we're pretty cool.
I was cool before, but yeah. The most fun question is, they either don't believe that you can do it because that's not possible for like normal people, or they don't they didn't know how they could do it. And that's the really fun one, because it's not that they don't have an interest in it, it's just they never realized it was possible.
Right. Right. And if you can't if you can't see yourself in a position, whether it's this race world or whether it's in your career,
Mhm.
if you can't see yourself there, then you'll never get there. But it starts with, oh, like there's a way that I can get in, like to volunteer. When I found out, I was like, well, nobody's ever going to let me volunteer for a race. I don't know anything about racing. I don't know anything about cars. I know how to drive them, but that's about it. I don't have a car, that anybody would say, "Oh, you have a great car. You have a cool car."
You don't
Um,
need a cool
you don't
car.
need anything. In
You
fact,
just
if you could Uber there, which that'd be really expensive,
Your
all you
new
gotta do is
car,
show up.
your new car is kind of cool, sir. I think you're underselling this a little bit.
You're right. My new car is kind of cool.
It's kind of cool. It's not race
I,
car, but not supposed to be. It's on the street.
That's right.
I look at it as this is what I want to do, and you just need to take a first step. You just need to take the step. And just, as what my stepdad used to always say, it's just like, just say yes and step out the door. Just whatever idea you have, because, you might not think that, it'll probably be a good time. It might not be a good time, but you'll never know. And most likely it'll be the best time you ever had for whatever opportunity just comes your way. Just take a step.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Hmm.
And it really starts with that step. And sometimes the step is asking questions.
Right.
Sometimes the step is, your research, but there's no easier step. If you literally have nothing and you really don't have a car, like the easiest thing you can do is go work for free
Mhm.
Yeah.
close by. If you want to learn how to be a mechanic, go be an apprentice.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Even if you're volunteering, most of the time, if you're volunteering, somebody will say, "Hey, get in the right seat," and you'll at least get out on track, and then you'll know, like, A, you probably will love it, and B, you may or may not have motion sickness if you're not driving. It's okay.
here are my questions for those of us who are, again, they're sitting in their house or they're sitting on a sofa and they want to consider volunteering. What are some of the duties that you have come across that they start assigning to you when you're volunteering? And
So,
and in what realms do you volunteer?
yes, good question. So, the first thing that I did was I looked up my local SECA organization, and it's by region. So, I looked up the Ohio Valley Region SECA, and you look for the volunteer coordinator. NASA also has a similar entry. You look for the volunteer opportunities, and then you just reach out. Say, hey, I want to volunteer. That's your first step. That's stepping out the door. And then everything else really just comes after that. Now, what are the options? So there's going to be different options depending on the organization. So when I started with SCCA, my options were, hey, I'm going to give you the phone number for the chief of Pit and Grid. I had no idea what that was, but it sounded plain and it sounded really cool. So that's who I called.
'Cause- Mhm. 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 Mhm.
The other one was the chief of Flagging and Communications.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds cool too, but not quite as cool as being in pit lane because I can go tell my friends I work in pit lane. Um, then there's the chief of start. Then there was the chief of registrar. Then there's chief of timing and scoring. And all of those areas, and I'm sure I'm missing some, but all of those areas really just start with, okay, well, I'm just going to reach out to them and say, hey, can I help you? With NASA, there may be different terms that are used. So you can reach out or be connected with tech. You can be connected with registration. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you can you can work flagging. That's not through NASA, but it's through a different organization. But you can do it. There's also timing and scoring. So there's and control. So there's lots of areas that they can offer to you. So what I did, my day one in pit lane as a pit and grid marshal, I stood there on pit lane, and as cars were coming in off the track or going onto the track, I was the first line of defense and safety. So if a car comes in and they pull into their pit, I'm make sure that I know where the fire bottle is. I look at the car, make sure there's no smoke, nothing leaking,
Mm-hmm.
make sure the driver's okay. Sometimes I go up to the driver and ask, is there anything that you need? And if there's something that they need, I would go tell somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have anything to give, but I would go tell somebody. Super easy. And I was responsible as all the race cars are like filing off the track at the end. You know, there's a lot of people in the paddock that want to stand around and be close and watch. So they told me to bring a whistle. So I whistle, and I'm really good at whistling. And the C's part, and I tell people move out of the way in a really nice way, and the cars come through. And that was my job, and it was super easy, but it was super cool. Like I literally was within inches of every single race car, sometimes 300, 400 race cars in a weekend, ranging from $4,000 in cost to 2.5 million in cost. Because I would also do
Wow.
IndyCar. And
Mhm.
so all the Indy cars, I had to do the same job, not on pit lane, but through the paddock as they're coming off. We had to make sure that people were aware that there's a car coming through. So it was
Right.
super easy. Working in start. Hey, Brian, welcome. Congratulations on climbing the ladder. So I climbed the ladder in the start stand, and they said, first thing that we want you to do is sit over here with this clipboard, and you're the manual backup to the electronic timing and scoring system. So as the cars come across the start finish line every single lap, at least try to get the numbers of the top five cars. That way, if something happens, we have a record that we know who was in first, second, third, on each lap. Okay, so that's easy enough. And then they wanted me to, throw flags. So I'm going to stand at point. Obviously, I had to know all the flags. I'm going to throw the green flag. Brian, don't move because they're waiting for you to move. If you move, they don't care if they see the green flag or not. They're going to jump. They're going to go. So you got to be really still, hold that green flag, and wave it exactly when you're ready for them to go. Here's the yellow flags. Here's the blue flags. Here's the debris flags, the meatball flags, the black flags, the red flags, the checkered flags, and just throw these flags when we tell you to, or when you see something happening on the track that means that we have to communicate with the drivers to tell them there's something to be careful of.
Hmm.
So it was pretty intimidating at first to do that, but there's also a role called backup in that job that is watching you to make sure that they're really backing you up. Because you're doing all the communication, they want to make sure that you're doing it correctly. And
Hmm.
then with backup, you're wearing a headset, you're talking to control tower, you're talking to all the flag stations, and you're communicating. So it's a little bit more advanced. But to start off with, it kind of flows you through those roles until you nail it down.
Hmm.
And I've done other
Wow.
jobs, timing and scoring. I've done tech. Tech was pretty cool. The primary job in tech is to weigh the cars. So the cars roll up on the scales, and you read their weight to them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Easy peasy. And there's more to it than that, but on day one, it's that easy. Um, or cars come in impound because they had contact during a race. You're going to walk over to those cars with these two clipboards. I don't know what was on these clipboards, but just hand it to them and ask them for their video cards. That's all I
Wow.
have to do. So, it's really they welcome people who don't know a damn thing.
Right. You know way more about that stuff than I do. I
Yeah, and that's what
mean, I
happens,
know
right? You get to
flags, but I
see it.
don't know any of the inner workings of anything that goes on. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, and that's what happens, right? It's natural. I'm not special. And anybody who comes and starts on day one, they teach you day one stuff. And then you come back and you're like, okay, cool, I can do the day one stuff. And then they teach you the day two stuff. And so over time, you next thing you know, you're an expert because it is something that not everybody knows how to do.
Mm-hmm. See, this
Very,
is walking the path. This is what walking the path looks like.
Walking the path. Walking the path. Yeah.
yeah, very few people are born with that knowledge. So just remember that when you're worried about it.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to learn.
And
Somebody.
you know what? What I've noticed is that race people are the best people,
Hmm.
and they are just the nicest and the kindest and respectful and helpful. So even going in there not knowing a damn thing, they
Hmm.
would certainly just pretty much point you in the right direction.
Absolutely. Everybody is so helpful because we're all there to have fun, and we're all there, racing from the outside looking in, racing can seem ultra competitive, and, people who have loads of money. So that comes with stereotypes, and you don't see those negative things show up at all. It's a community and they're happy to see
Hmm.
you. They're happy to see you at the next event. And I'm, potentially sensitive topic, but as a black man going to races in a rural area where there's probably not going to be a lot of black people, that's one thing that I didn't know what to expect.
Hmm.
And I cannot tell you how welcoming everyone is. Doesn't
Hmm.
matter your background. We're all there to share one thing. We all were blood, sweat, and tears to get there in our own way.
Hmm.
And we just appreciate the fact that we can do it.
It's
And that's
just
the
having
vibe.
a good time.
Yes, it's the vibe.
Hmm.
It is. All right. So you started with we're gonna group you with us. So we're gonna go with this. You started with less than zero.
Less than zero.
You've progressed to a fairly high level for an amateur racer. You're placing in the top 10 of a national event. That's pretty awesome. By the way, I just want to mention that you and Miss Vicki can compete in the same class. By the way, just
Nice.
thought I'd bring that to
I'll
your
be
attention.
looking for you.
Nice. I'll be looking for you too.
Okay. Perhaps in 2 weeks at Mid Ohio, nobody wrote back to me on my text message before. Miss Vicky.
I have to double check the schedule.
I know. Anyway, so you started with zero, got to where you're at. How about any goals, any things you want to do, any tracks, any series, any cars, any bucket list items, any, oh my God, 50 years from now, when I look back, I say, I did what?
Yeah. So, my more near term goal is to be on the podium consistently,
Mm-hmm.
or be a threat
Mm-hmm.
on the podium. Um, so I'm this is my second year of racing, first year of instruction, and every time I'm out on the track, every lap on the track, I'm looking for what's that next thing, to improve. And so my goal is to be at the front all the time.
Okay.
A little bit longer term, I would love to race at Coda.
Okay.
And the reason why, one, it's a gorgeous track, but I've only seen it on TV.
Hmm.
But it was the track that I saw the night that I realized that I've got to do something to get into racing.
Sure.
And, just watching these cars just snake through the S's, it was just gorgeous. So I'd really like to drive there. I'd really like to drive at VIR.
Hmm.
I also have, on TV seen it. It's a beautiful track, and I hear nothing but amazing things about it.
Right.
Vehicle wise, I want to get into an open wheel car
Okay.
eventually. I mean, I'd love to say it's going to be a Formula One car, but
I
if
think
it's
most
not
people
a
would love to
Formula
get into a
One,
Formula One car. Yeah.
if it's not a Formula One car, I at least want to do one race in a Formula Atlantic,
Hmm.
because it's the biggest that I've seen, except for like Indy Lights and some of those open wheel cars that are probably a lot more expensive to get into. But I know that I can rent a Ford Atlantic from like the guys at Alliance.
Right.
Um, but I'd love to do that. That to me is like that's the check that says, "Yep, you are doing real racing."
Okay.
Hey, what do you race? Oh, I race a Miata, but you don't understand. A Miata is, and then I go through the list, right?
Yep.
And those that know, but those that don't know,
Yep.
they're like, "Oh, that sounds cool." But when I say I raced, not that they won't know what a Formula Atlantic is, but I'll tell them it's a Formula car. Here's my picture. Oh, wow, you really race. That's kind of the feather in the cap.
Okay. All right. So follow up to that. You've raced a bit. You've got some experience. You've got
Yeah.
some pedigree on the wall. Uh, what car have you raced against that you would take the claw game, pull the driver out, you jump in, and at what track?
All right. So the car that comes to mind, I
Mm,
technically wasn't racing against it, but it
That's
was
fine.
on the track at the same time.
Hey, we're a
And that
flexible
is,
kind of podcast.
man, I want one for my daily driver and I want one to race. And
Sure
it's a
podcasts.
Porsche 718 Cayman
Mm-hmm.
GT4 RS.
Ah,
That's the goal right there.
that's not a
That's
bad place.
that's the
Those are
adult
good
version.
goals.
Yeah, yeah. That's the adult version of I don't know what year it was, but it was I had a model of a red 911, and it was around 86 or 87, so I'm not sure,
Mhm.
which, but it's all stems from that. And so now, do I want a 911? Well, I've done enough research to know I don't want a 911. It'd be nice, but I think the balance of the Cayman is what I'm after. So yeah, you'll see me one day doing it.
I'll be there. I will use my claw game
There you go.
to grab you.
There you go.
That's a good way of putting it. Club game.
Yep. So besides you know, growing as a driver and growing as an instructor, which is a almost a separate skill entirely, because
Yes. Oh
I've
my
I've
gosh.
seen some great drivers who are terrible instructors, and I've seen some instructors who aren't that great a driver.
Yeah.
But do you have any kind of type of racing philosophy that you promote, or something you say to somebody who, maybe a friend of yours says, I'm thinking about this, and you say, you know what you need? You need a
Um, I don't know that I have enough experience to have developed a philosophy. A lot of people will ask about um, a particular turn, or they might ask about, a particular technique. And so I'll tend to give them the advice that I know and qualify it as this is what works for me. This is what I've tried. Go try it. Let me know how it worked. Um, And I do think that, our car goes where our eyes go. So that's
Oh,
probably the most
absolutely.
common. That's the most common thing. Um, and, if you look for your markers, you're
Mhm,
more likely to hit them. If you don't have markers, sometimes it can feel like you're just floating.
Mhm.
So that's probably the one most used.
mhm.
One thing that I have given as advice to street drivers is you know how it's real cool when you first start driving and you got your one hand up on top of the wheel?
Yes.
Hands at 12 in lap.
Yeah. And it is
Sunday driving, we call it.
what's that?
Sunday driving.
Yeah. It is cool, but it's, as I've learned, it's enormously dangerous
It is.
because the weight that goes, that, you know, your arm pulling on that, if you go left or right, you don't have the same fine muscle control to keep that thing straight or where you want it. And so that's one thing that I've told people, like, if you're going to drive with one hand, put the one hand at the bottom of the wheel. Like, so you can just steer with fine muscles, not your whole arm. It's pretty dangerous, but 9 and 3 is the place to be.
Mhm.
Even.
And you did make a good point too. And it's something that we always learn when we're on the track is your car will go where your eyes go.
Mhm.
So and that goes for street too. That absolutely goes for street too. If you are out of control in your car and you're looking at a place where you don't want your car to go, most likely that's where it's going to go. So look where you want your car to be versus where it's heading. Just do the best you can.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I can remember clearly teaching my kids how to ride a bike, and
Mhm.
I would give them exercises like to hit certain marks with their bike to prove to them, like, hey, remember how you were looking at that dot that was like 30 feet in front of you, and all you did was stare at it, but your wheel somehow went right over that dot. Now that you're
Mhm.
driving, I want you to keep the same thing in mind. If you're looking to
Mhm.
the side, your car is going to pull to the side.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm busily
Well,
trying to look in the back to see Miss Vicky's first ever Lemons race where she was driving
Oh,
weekends.
oh my gosh. I was so Sunday driving in like my first or second time out. I was so horrible. It's horrifying when I look back on how I was driving before because we didn't get a whole lot of HPD when we started. We just jumped in. I
Okay.
think maybe we might have had one.
0.
No, we just jumped in. We put a car on track. It was a 77 Capri.
74.
Was this 74 Capri? And it drove as such. But I was Sunday driving that sucker. I was chilling. And now I'm looking back going, oh my God.
Yeah.
Hand on the stick and hand on the wheel.
Yep.
And
I was
drove
just
lap
so
after lap.
relaxing.
Yep.
Oh, and that was the same race when we thought on Saturday that the race ended at a different time.
No,
And Bill and I went out and got pizza with everybody's uniform
That was
Oh
Thompson.
no.
because they stored their uniforms in the back of my SUV.
Oh no.
Because it was raining.
So we went and got pizza so nobody could get into the car because we got, what was the award we got?
You got screwed.
We got the You Got Screwed award.
Oh no.
The I Got Screwed award. Yep. It was such a thing.
We
I'm
didn't
like,
get
but
screwed.
Bill,
We
you
screwed
told me that the
ourselves.
race was ending at this time because I thought it did too.
Well, the
It
first
was like
race
another
ended.
hour and a half.
Yeah, the first race ended at that time. Who knew they changed at every race? Who knew? Whatever. It's fine. We won an award on our second race.
You did. You're winners.
Exactly.
We're so winners.
Won. And you had pizza to celebrate.
We
Exactly.
did.
It's fine. It worked out. We
Fine.
totaled one car while we were there. It's fine. All right.
Yep.
So let's pretend this isn't about us, my dear.
I'm sorry. We're just communicating with friends here.
I know. So, you worked your way up kind of through the Great Lakes ladder system, as did I, and Miss Vicky's kind of been a hybrid. She's been several organizations, but mostly Great Lakes.
Love Great Lakes.
Love it.
I really do. It's just far for us, but I love it.
Man, we need a teleporter.
Yeah.
PittRace is the close one, and that's 5 hours. So they get worse from there. And Ozarks, could you make it further? There is no Great Lake by Arkansas. I just want Eric and the crew to know that. No Great Lake is near Arkansas.
Nope.
But anyway.
None of them.
None. Not even
But I'm
like
sure it's a great track. I haven't been there because it's so far.
it
I'm sure
is.
it's a great track.
It looks like a great track. I just it is far from flat. That is for sure. So let's pretend someone doesn't or isn't familiar with the ladder system, or specifically isn't familiar with Great Lakes. How would you kind of describe that as somebody who worked their way through it and now is giving back by instructing?
Yeah, sure. So there are 4 tiers to the HPDE program. Um, in the first tier, you have an instructor that sits right seat with you, and while you're on track, there's rules that apply, which includes there's only certain points in the track that you're allowed to pass, and passes only happen with point buys. So you point so that the car behind you knows that you know they're there and it's safe for them to pass, and they choose to pass if they also feel that it's safe. Um, in all the HPDE programs or tiers, you have 4 on-track sessions on Saturday, about 20-25 minutes a piece, 4 on Sunday. And like I said, you have an instructor in the car with you. And when you're not in the car in HPDE 1, you're in the classroom. And so you're getting a lot of instruction, a lot of knowledge. You have an opportunity to talk to the other folks that are also learning right along with you.
One
And
one thing
yeah.
about the classroom though, a lot of people have a negative feeling about the classroom, and
Mhm.
I think it can be a negative, but with Great Lakes especially, it's actually adding to the experience and is far from, the Ferris Bueller typical, Bueller. It's actually great, and the debriefs in the higher levels form the same function, but it's not something to say, I don't want to go to Great Lakes because I don't want to go to a classroom. The classroom is actually going to help you.
The classroom absolutely helps you. And, you're learning racecraft from its foundation so
Hmm.
that when you get out there in the car, number one objective is safety. And so you don't have a bunch of people going out in HPDE1 and just, hauling ass through the whole track recklessly. It's very controlled, but it's also not super slow. You can hammer down
Hmm.
on the pedal, but there's an agreed coordination of how we do that and how we pass each other, right? If you run up. But in the classroom, we have to talk about what those things are so that we can get out there and be safe. In
Yes.
the classroom, you learn things about the flags and you learn things about car control, but you also learn about what your drill is going to be,
Mhm.
because the whole idea is that you don't stay in HPDE1. The whole idea is so that you prepare for advancement into HPDE2.
Yes.
So you want to learn the skills that are required to develop your situational awareness, to develop your predictability on track.
Hmm.
When we watch racing, whether it's, Spec Miata or Formula One or NASCAR, there's wrecks, but for the most part, what you see is people at the top of their game going as fast as they possibly can within inches, millimeters of one another or touching one another. And the reason why they can drive so closely together is because they're predictable. I
Yep.
know what the car in front of me is going to do,
Right.
and I can feel safe and comfortable around that. And I want to be a driver like that.
Yep.
I want to know how to drive in such close quarters, but as fast as I possibly can, and be able to trust everyone and be trusted. And these are the things that we learned through the classroom sessions.
Yeah, the thing you mentioned about building the foundation is important because the one minor hiccup we have with our sport is everybody drives every day. I'm not everybody,
Mhm.
but and not every day, but let's just say everybody drives every day. So they know how to drive. Like we've had so many people walk up, I drive 25,000 miles a year. I'd be an excellent race driver. Has nothing to do with it. And then the other thing is when you start, you're going to think 90% of the people or more think that they are going to be fantastic and they're natural drivers and they'll be super fast. And they're not fast, but you want to have a solid foundation with as few flaws in it as possible because as you grow, you will get fast. And you don't want to find out at a very high rate of speed that, oh, I don't know how to save a slide, or oh, I don't know what an apex is. These are things you want to know when you're still learning and going slower. And that's what
Oh yeah.
Great Lakes does a great job of, is the foundation is strong, solid, and has no holes.
Rock solid, rock solid. And so, that HPD1 prepares us for HPDE2, and you advance in your knowledge, you advance in your skills. You've already been certified
Hmm.
as being ready. And in that, we loosen up the passing zone restrictions
Hmm.
a bit more. We still do point buys. You may or may not have an instructor in the car with you, and speed picks up. Not because we're allowed to go faster, but because we actually know how to drive better, and we know how to coordinate and cooperate better.
And the students don't often notice that they're faster,
Yes,
because
yes,
they actually think they're slower, and you have to explain to them that no, you're like 15 seconds a lap faster than when you first started.
yep.
So yeah.
Yeah. When you get out there and you're learning car control and how to drive smoother, smooth is fast,
Hmm.
you're doing less in the car
Yep.
when you know what you're doing.
That's
So things don't feel as out of control, maybe, or nerve wracking, maybe, as when you did HPDE1. Everything feels fast because you're taking a lot in at once.
Yep.
But you have to also be able to, whether it's one or two, not only do you have to be able to control your car well and be aware of what the other cars are doing, but you also have to watch every flag station as it comes up, because they're communicating with you also to keep you safe. They're going to tell you if there's an incident up ahead. They're going to let you know if that incident is on track or off the track.
Hmm.
They're going to tell you when there's debris on the surface. They're going to tell you when it's time to come in. If you don't have the ability to drive at the highest rate of speed that you can, and watch the other cars, and watch the flags, you don't really want to move forward too fast.
Yeah.
So that progression really, really matters.
Yeah, one thing we didn't cover, and I was kind of doing it on purpose because Miss Vicky's back now, and one of the things that really separates Great Lakes from the other organizations that we go to is the drills. They're
Mhm.
they're progressive, they're continuous, they're in 6 of the 8 that you'll do on a weekend, but they build on each other through HPD1, through Saturday, through Sunday, through HPD2, through Saturday, through Sunday, through HPD3, which have my favorite drills. Although Brandon's working on an HPD4, those are kind of fun too. But and each one, it's just like the classroom. Sometimes people say, "I don't want to do drills. I just want to go fast," and it's not going to help me. And then if you just try the drills, it teaches you so much.
Well,
So
yeah, and they do desensitize you to certain things,
Yes.
to the elements on the track.
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely. I can think of a couple, right away that might feel, a little bit silly to do them. And one of them was early apex, late apex.
Hmm.
And, not everyone really cares about what part of the turn I touched the inside curbing on. And then at the end of it, the whole idea is that you learn there's a difference. And so now when you're at a high rate of speed, you can pick and choose which part of the curb you want to hit on that inside on the apex in order to maximize your speed.
And why?
Yeah. There's another one, right? It's the monster pass
Hmm.
drill or the three wide drill.
Hmm.
It's super slow, and it can be so aggravating to drive three wide through the whole course, or to have, two rows, if you will, lanes, I guess,
Yep.
columns, I guess, of cars, where you have, 8 cars on the left side in single file, 8 cars on the right side in single file. And then somebody from the back comes straight up the middle.
Yep.
And then the next person from the back on the other side comes straight up the middle and, tucks in. And so we do this throughout the whole course. And it's really, really slow. But when we do it, it's really, really fun. And it's a little bit scary because you get accustomed to, not just on the straights, but through every turn that circuit throws at you, of having to be, within inches of the cars next to you, and you got to pass all of them to get to the front.
Yep.
That's a skill set that shows up in every single race. You've got to be able to get close to these other cars without getting thrown off. I need to know how they're going to look in my mirrors to understand what it's going to look like, and how to present. And if you don't develop that skill and you just want to get out there and go fast and go racing, somebody is bound to get hurt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The one that always blows the mind of the student is the vision drill, where they'll do one lap where the student will tell me what they're looking at, and then the second lap, the instructor will say what they're looking at, and it is like the people are from two different planets, and
Oh yeah.
the student gets out after that drill going, I had no idea you were looking there. I'm like, well, information is power, and
Yeah.
the more you can see, the better.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that I've noticed in the progression from starting there and including my own racing and where my racing is at in compared to NASA is that when you start out, everything you're dealing with so much input of the steering, of the shifting, of the cars around you, of what your instructor is telling you. And it is so overwhelming. But the more that you do it, suddenly you're not thinking about the shifting. Suddenly you're not thinking about your footwork too much. You are, but you aren't. Now what you're thinking about is how balanced your car is. All that information, like the flags are now, you already know it. It's in the background. Yep. Or my big thing was, where your eyes are supposed to be. Now your eyes are already there.
Yep.
And, or like your apex, the more you do it, all that stuff gets pushed to the back. And now you can focus. I think when you probably start getting to level 3, you can start focusing on car craft.
Absolutely.
At that point. I mean, I know that 3, you're focusing still on desensitizing side-by-side racing, and they want you close to each other when you're in there. But now that is going to get pushed to the back, and now you can start working on strategy. When you get to level 4, and you start, branching out and start to actually do racing, and you will find friends within NASA or SCCA who will say, hey, let's go out onto the track. Let's go do track racing. And you might end up in a Lemons. You might end up in a Lucky Dog or an AER or whatever. But, that's you at that point, you start working on strategy on the track. And where do you want your car incomparable to, say, if there are faster races that are or faster people that are coming up behind you, hey, it might be a good idea for me to hop behind all these guys and let them just like an ambulance, just open up the traffic and you're just running through. The more you start, now you don't have to think about everything else. Now you start worrying about racing the car.
That's right. That's right.
So that's right.
Yeah. I know you spoke with Ross Bentley on the most recent episode, about kind of that starting point where there's so much information coming in at once. And we all have those kind of experiences, whether it was when we first learned to drive, right? You got to know, like, are my hands in the right place? Are my feet in the right place? Is my seat in the right place? Is my mirror in the right place? What about that light? What about that lane? What about that car? There's so much. And we have to get our kids or ourselves, we've got to get them comfortable with those things so that they now can fall into the background. So that we can focus on more advanced techniques. Or even when we were tying our shoes or learning how to drive stick, one or the other, you had to think about everything.
Playing a video game. It's just like playing a video game. When you jump in the middle of a video game and you haven't learned that very beginning part of it, you're lost when you're in there. You're just trying to figure out the controls.
The buttons.
Right. And that's how I looked at racing. Racing is like playing a video game. You got to start at the beginning. And then once you start getting those big basics, you're out there killing it.
That's right.
You have to be able to notice that white BMW that's creeping close to you that's going to close your mirror as it drives by.
That's
Mm-hmm.
right. That's
Eric.
right. Because I'm coming.
Eric.
Oh,
My.
Yeah.
you meant Eric's white BMW. Because my
Yes.
BMW is also white.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Ah,
But
okay.
oh yeah, Eric is notorious for coming up beside you and closing your mirror on you because he'll
Yep.
reach out and slap it. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
absolutely.
He does not,
He
does
Oh
does.
he?
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know when you're in HPDE1 and HPDE2 and you hear about this thing that he does in those stages, you're like, there's no way I'm going to be driving 85 miles an hour and there's going to be a car that comes up next to me that close to close my mirror and he's doing it for fun.
Mhm.
Like, but then you get there and
Mhm.
you realize, oh, I can do this. But you have so much confidence because Vicky, to your point, you've progressed in all the inputs and all the outputs that now is so much muscle memory that to get to
Mm-hmm.
that point is just an incremental change.
Mm-hmm.
There's,
I would be looking at him and I'd be like, that's ballsy.
You will be looking
it
at him
still is.
if I can talk him
That's
into
awesome. Awesome. But I'm
mid-Ohio.
like, bitch.
Don't worry, he doesn't mind if you do it to him. You just have to be good enough to catch him.
That's right.
Facts.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Bill,
awesome.
there's one thing that I want to add. When we think about, okay, this progression and learning the foundational skills so that they do go back and now they're into your subconscious, so now you can focus on the next thing that you need to work on. There's still going to be drivers who haven't done this yet that think, yeah, I don't need all that because I'm already a great driver. So I want to challenge that thought process with this: get to HPDE1 and one, prove it. There's nothing wrong with that. Prove
Mm-hmm.
it and prove it to yourself. Pass, advance, and get into HPD2. Prove that and move on. Like there's nothing wrong with that. And if you are that good and you're ready to test out, then you will appropriately test out.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who get through it in 1 or 2 weekends. I've seen it.
For sure.
Now, what I'll tell you will probably happen is you're going to get there and you're going to get an opportunity to have pointed out to you what you could actually do better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why you're there. It's to discover what it is that you need to work on in order to build a concrete foundation before you start advancing into the higher techniques.
And the thing is, too, is that the difference between doing the HPDE and just the general racing that, we also do, Bill and I do, is that your car is protected for the most part. Now, I'm not saying that things don't happen to cars because you've gotten a little, a little aggro or a little whatever or lost it on the track. I'm not saying that doesn't happen in HPDE, but you're doing all this in a way that your car is protected to a certain degree. It's a safe environment. Everybody is on the same track. Everybody's on the same page. You're not going to get close to a car until you are proficient in being close to a car.
Agreed.
And they won't level you up. Now, when you go into racing like Bill and I, you have to be
And Brian.
ready to write that car off when you're racing it. I'm just saying, which is why
yeah,
the low dollar racing that we do. It is a car. It is a car that gets regular parts. It's nothing really fancy or a gutted car. And you're competing with other cars of the same similar. You're not putting a $30,000, $40,000 car out there. You're putting in $1,000 car, $2,000 car,
$200,000 cars. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're not doing that.
Right.
But the difference is when you're doing the HPDE, your cars are relatively protected. I would still never just drive my car to the track and put it on the track. You might end up not having a car to get home, depending on how something might happen. So
The thing that I try to mention to people, and we talked about it a little earlier about the new people who think they're natural A drivers and automatically, I'm coming in, I'm going to dominate. Um, you're judging yourself against the regular population of drivers, which I believe that anybody listening to this podcast will have many, many, many data points saying that the people on the roads can't drive. Okay. So,
Yes.
the population you're judging yourself against when racing is a small subset of that big population, and many of them have a lot more training than you have had, having never been on track. So
Mhm.
you don't know what you don't know. It's one of those
Right.
conditions. You just don't know. You're not experienced with it. You're not used to judging yourself. You may be the best driver you know, but the drivers you know may not be that good. And you just don't know that there's more, and that's the fun part. Is once you, if you have the personality who will acknowledge that I may not be the gift to the driving world that I believe that I am coming in, and you're willing to accept some input and some, um, not negative criticism, but supporting criticism to help you get better, you'll realize that, oh, I thought I was a 9. Really, I'm a 4. But that should be exciting, because now, instead of I only have this little bit that I could get better, I have all of this to get better. And
Bill,
that's what's fun.
Bill had made a comment one time, is that there's nothing more terrifying than a new driver with a really fast car. Like a
That's not
that
what you
that
want in
thinks that they
HPD
can,
one.
that they think that they can drive. And fortunately, that the student that Bill got the last time, he did have like SCCA experience, and he was just trying, the Great Lakes out. So he did have experience for this super powerful car that he had going into one. And Bill's like, "F me."
Thought I
What
did
the
something to Eric's
heck?
dog or something. I'm like, why do I get the M8 comp?
It's like,
What's
what the
going on?
heck?
Just give me a Miata.
So, just right. The best thing you can do in level one, especially when you're learning, is master an underpowerful car.
Mm.
Because you can always transition with those skills into a more powerful car, but you're either driving the car or the car is driving you at that point. Because you can muscle through anything on that car pretty much, but is it, you're not really getting the skill. But if you can go super fast in a small car, or a relatively underpowered car, or your skills will
You don't want
manifest
700.
pretty quick.
You don't want 700 horsepower racing slicks in HPDE one.
No, don't do that.
Please don't. Speaking as an
Don't do
instructor,
that.
Brian,
That's the one thing that we've learned.
Yeah. And I will say I learned that too. So it was several years before I actually got out on track myself. So I think I was around for about 6 or 7 years, just picking up all the knowledge along the way,
Uh-huh.
from retired drivers, new drivers, racers at that,
Mm-hmm.
pro, amateur, or club. And that was the one thing that was spoken of the most, was exactly what you just said, Vicki, was get a car that's low powered and learn driving, racing, racecraft, learn it all. And
Miatas are
then,
good.
yep.
Miatas are great for that. Hondas are great for that. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to
No, you're
bulldoze you.
exactly right. That's where I was headed is,
he meant it, Brian.
the thing that I learned was, I want a Miata. And so the car that I was in HPDE the most with, was an NA Miata. Sold that. My first race car was, NA chassis, NB, engine, and
Okay.
all the fun parts. And then the car so I just sold that last week and bought my next car, from my teammate, within, Midwest Miata Parts. And that's an NB Miata. And there's so much fun. It's also a lower cost, so I think barrier to entry.
Mm-hmm.
The consumables are lower cost. The car itself is
That's the
lower cost.
key. That's
Yeah.
the freaking key is to get yourself a car that's easy to work on and the consumables are cheap
Yep.
and plentiful.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to go back.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many cool cars, that are higher horsepower and more expensive. And I'd love to be in one of those. But to be honest, starting out, I don't know how I'm going to do when I'm racing. I don't know if I'm going to, cause an incident or be involved in an incident and have to pay for repairs. And I certainly have to pay for wheels and tires and brakes and fluids and
Hmm.
everything that needs to be replaced along the way, transmissions. And so, it's a good for easier entry from a budget standpoint,
Hmm.
but it's also been the car like 99% of the time is the car that's most recommended to start truly racing in is the Miata.
Hmm.
And like you
And
said,
and any of the Miatas,
yeah, yeah,
any of them.
Yep.
yeah. So you and your high horsepowered car, you probably are fast on the road and on the highway. You probably are a good driver in order to control it. But
Hmm.
I would challenge anybody to try the program out and either prove it on the track in a controlled environment and have a great time, or take the opportunity to have some things pointed out to you that's going to make you even better than what you are right
Hmm.
now. And there's nothing but great things that come out of that. And you're going to make friends along the way. And now you got a bunch of race friends, and you can see all kind of cool cars.
Indeed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I agree 100%.
so Miss Vicky, we were talking about vision before,
Hmm.
and you go where you were looking.
Hmm.
Were you looking at the bridge?
No, no. I was
Okay.
not looking at the bridge. No, no. I knew exactly what I did on that. I lifted. I went wide, I went in hot, and I lifted.
Okay.
So
All
what
right.
happened?
So I don't know if they had a Miata next to me. I don't know what that car was. Um,
Miata
yeah, they had a Miata next to me. Of course, I'm doing a 93 D series Honda
Civic.
Civic hatchback. So a hot hatch. Um, and we had been going back and forth for like 10 laps. Back and forth. It was a pain. Like I'd already passed our team truck. We had a truck and I chased him down and I got rid of him. And I know that I brought us up from fifth, probably fifth to third,
Third. Yeah.
in class. So, um, and I have to look at the tape because everything is really kind of sketchy, but I believe that I went in wide. There was people, everybody, everybody on that track. There was no line. There was no line. It was just a cluster of cars going around the track. So navigating that, and I know that I went into a pocket with some cars, and he was there again. And I don't, and I at this point I think he was behind me, but I had gone wide under the bridge at Thompson on turn 5. I'm don't know if I had just passed somebody, but going wide, and I knew I was puckering on the way around, and I don't know if I touched some rumble strips also, but the thing is with the front wheel drive is that if you feel like it's going out from under you, you punch the gas.
Mm,
But the thing was is that I was already going too fast and the car was pushing.
yeah.
So it I couldn't straighten it at that point. So it just kept going in a big arc and then it just kind of it hit on the passenger side front. So it kind of hit right on that angle into the wall. It was just a big arc coming around and I don't know if Bill, if you called it understeer or oversteer, but I just know that the wheels were turned and it was just pushing and it just kept pushing all the way around. I'm like,
You
half a
was
track down. I felt terrible.
you were doing okay, except when you said pushing. It was oversteer and it wasn't pushing.
Yeah. So, and at that point that I couldn't straighten the wheel. It had already set itself. And I was just like, this is not good.
That's
And,
disappointing.
it was disappointing. So, um,
So let's have fun instead of talking about things that we still have to fix.
okay. Well, he
Okay.
asked. So somebody asked. So I answered the question.
I know.
Okay.
But you weren't looking. You weren't looking at the bridge.
No, I was not.
You were looking where you wanted the car to go. And hey,
I
sometimes
did. I
that's the
did.
option.
Yeah, I was looking at it, and
Well, right at the end, she had no choice
it
but
was
to
a
look at
blur.
it because it was straight in front of her.
Yeah, it was a blur. It was a blur. But going under the bridge is just like one big turn. It's like one big arch. Not, I wouldn't say it's a big arch, but it's definitely a dog leg because, it's a dog leg. I would have to say it's sharper than, or if not, it's a little wider, but it's just as sharp, I would say, as 16, 17 at
Gotcha.
Pitt. It runs like that. It
Not-
goes not uphill, but it's flat, and there's a transition that puts you right onto the NASCAR track, the little
not-
NASCAR
Not
track.
quite as much degrees of arc, but yeah, it's close.
Yeah, it's wider, but yeah.
Moving on.
All right.
Fast and Furious storytime questions, which
Yeah,
has
you
nothing
get
to
a
do
couple
with
of
the
those.
movie.
Bill, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
You asked me a question about the ladder. I just wanted to cap it off.
Oh, yeah,
So
I'm
we
sorry.
don't get
Oh,
into
love
the
it.
detail.
We had wandered away. I forgot I was talking about that.
Yeah, and it's really cool because as you work through the HPD program, now it's like, now what? From HPD 3, you can go racing. You can go race in the Trek endurance racing.
Yep. Sprint
Which is
race.
going to be anywhere from what 4 to 6 hours
Yeah.
of racing, team or individual. Or if you go into progress to HPD 4, from there you can go into time trials, which does offer trophies, does offer contingencies, so you can get money or credits for the particular sponsors for your wheels, or excuse me, your tires, your brakes, your fluids, um, and and you can also go to comp school. And when you go to comp school, that's when you basically go to your capstone class of college. It's a Friday, all day school, brings all the HPD learnings together. And then by 2 o'clock, you drive in the truck race for the first 45 minutes. On Saturday, you compete in your first race, and then you do your 3 races through the weekend. So that's really where the HPD program takes you. Some people stay in HPD. Some people stay in 3. Some people stay in 4 because they just have that much fun, doing it. But it also sets you up to do whatever else you want. And then if you want to instruct, you can come out of HPDE 4 and go straight into instructor training school. I wanted to do both racing and instruct, so I opted to get my race license first because that was literally the goal. And then I needed to wait a year, so I wasn't a rookie anymore before I went through instructor training school. And I'm loving my life.
It's great.
Yeah.
What a great way to meet people just in general anyway. And
Oh, yeah.
just share what you do. So that is what you do now, is that
Yeah.
you share yourself and your knowledge.
Get
Yeah,
back to the sport.
absolutely.
Indeed. So, Brian, we have what we call the Fast and Furious Storytime questions, which have nothing to do with the movie. So it's not all about family. But
No, we want to get to know you just a little bit better.
So, Miss Vicki,
Family.
we got time for 3
I
each.
feel like you're already a friend. I seriously do. Like,
Well,
I would be so comfortable when I see you again to say, "Hey, Brian, what's up?"
Thank you. Likewise.
So, what I want to know, and this is always my favorite, I have a couple favorite questions, but this is why I keep asking them, is what was your first car and what was the worst car you ever had?
My first car was my worst car.
That's a common answer.
It happens.
Yeah, I had but it was slick. It looked cool.
We'll see.
So
It was
I
a
was dead.
It was a slick piece of garbage.
Slick piece of garbage. There's no better way to describe it. Slick piece of garbage with Swiss cheese wheels. So at some point, I would encourage you to Google the 1984 Dodge Daytona. It was turbocharged.
Oh, I know.
Oh no, we know that one.
Yeah, and the wheels look like Swiss cheese.
Yes, they do.
That rolls all through them.
Mhm.
It I wanted a car that was a manual, and I wanted a car that was a sports car. It also needed to cost less than $2,500.
Well, you got 2 out of 3.
Yeah, yeah, and that thing, it broke down 3 days after I bought it, but my pride wouldn't let me let it go. Um, but I had it for a couple of years. It was
What
something
color
else.
was it?
It was silver.
Oh, I was going with the goldish brown.
Yeah, no, no, it
Okay.
was the silver one.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Let's see. Do I want to do a new? I got some new ones. I got some old ones. All right. Let's go with Jennifer's favorite because I know it
Okay.
well. What is your favorite car, movie, or car from a movie of all time?
Um, all right. So I actually prepared for this one because I do listen.
Oh.
Oh my goodness, we owe you money.
And but I'm also going to be a little bit annoying because I don't have an answer.
Fine.
I don't have a single answer,
That's
rather.
fine. It can be a
Okay.
TV
So
show.
I'm gonna rattle off my list.
It can be
So
Mount
for
Rushmore. That's fine.
Okay, okay. Um, car movies, Baby Driver,
Very good movie.
loved
That's a
it.
good one.
Uh, Fast and Furious, I'll go with one. The
Okay.
whole series I love, but one is what sucked
The
me in, and
whole
it's
series. The whole series. The whole.
I do like the whole series except for Tokyo Drift.
Okay. All right. I was gonna say there's some holes in that series, but okay. All right. It's your puzzle.
Sometimes even if it's just to pass the time, I'm
I
still
I,
good, but I
I
do
get you.
enjoy it. Yep.
I get you.
Speed Racer movie.
Okay.
Speed
The
Racer had a movie.
relatively new one. Yeah. 10 years ago.
He used
Yes.
to be my favorite cartoon.
Oh yeah.
Like I was
Oh,
all about Speed Racer.
me too. Absolutely. My mom was on a okay, we're gonna get stuck on Speed Racer here for a second. This is fun.
I'll put some
So
more
my
tape
mom
in.
was on a
Hold on.
cruise.
We're good.
My mom was on a cruise and they do like these art auctions, and she won with her bid this poster that was framed really nice, and it was signed. It was a Speed Racer cartoon poster, and it was signed by the voice actor of Speed himself,
Nice.
Wow.
and his mom. So I have it in my house. Not in this room, so you won't be able to see it, but that's pretty cool. So my mom still calls me Speed Racer to this day. So if you ever, see comments in my socials, sometimes you'll see her call me SC or
Oh.
Space Cadet, but she'll also call me Speed Racer.
Depends on the
And
situation.
what's that?
Depends on the situation, right?
Depends on the situation. Yeah. So my car number of the car that I just sold, and it will be my car number on my next one, but I won't have time to change it before Mid Ohio. My car number is 555, and it is because of Speed Racer. But in Speed Racer, it's a Japanese anime.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
His name is Gogo.
Really?
Yes, and five in Japanese is go,
Oh, okay.
which makes my number go, go, go.
That's cool. That's cool.
So that's my Easter egg for you. I can't tell if Bill is frozen
No, I'm
or
here.
if he's still trying to figure out why my mom calls me Speed Racer.
No, I'm good. I'm just trying to find. You just answered one of our other questions. So I don't want to bother you with it because it's like, what is your car number and why? And you already
No,
Uh,
yeah.
okay.
all right, so movies. So Rush,
Yep.
Ford versus Ferrari.
Okay.
All right, and then I'm gonna slip in TV. So top of my list, Vicky, you know what the first one was for TV with cars in it? You
Sounds
just
like
said it.
Speed Racer.
Speed Racer.
Speed Racer.
Hmm.
I
Speed
was
Racer.
always I remember always watching Speed Racer when I was a kid.
Yep.
See, maybe
Knight Rider,
Hmm.
Dukes of Hazzard,
Hmm.
yeah. A-Team. I was watching A-Team too.
AT because of the van.
You and I, bud. You
That's
and I.
right. I think I'm about to stump
See,
you on this one,
see,
though.
I really think this is why, like, we instantly connect.
That's why you
I
have
think
two
so.
NB Miatas. That's what the problem is. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
There it is. There it is. All right, so I think I'm gonna stump you with this last one, both of
Okay.
them, because I knew I could see it, but I actually had to look it up to find out what the name of it was because I couldn't remember. But there
Okay.
was this cartoon where there's motorcycles
Mhm.
and this like red, it looked like a Volkswagen Beetle, but
Uh-huh.
it was like had big wheels in the back and he was like a nice guy,
I
whatever.
do remember that. I think it was a Hanna-Barbera show, I think.
And it's called Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch.
I
Mhm.
think I do remember that. That's an old one.
Old one.
That was an old one.
I've got homework for you, Brian.
Okay.
You need to go watch Wacky Racers.
What is it?
Wacky Racers.
Wacky
Yeah, I
Racers.
never really got into wacky racers.
That's because you look like
I'm gonna
Penelope
do it.
Pitstop.
I
Hmm.
always do my homework.
All right, very good. All right. You have earned your way to a new question we have not asked before.
All right.
All right. So, what is the best driving or racing advice you've ever received?
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, I I can tell you it was Chris Hindman.
Okay.
And I want to say I was in HPDE 2 and I was doing pretty good. Like I
Mhm.
was proud of myself is what I mean. I was doing
Right.
well and I'm hitting all my marks, carrying the speed that I wanted to at that level anyway. And I spun in the keyhole at Middle Highway.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
As
really
you do,
disappointed
as
in
you do.
myself,
I mean,
as you do. I was pretty disappointed in myself um, because I didn't know how I could let that happen, you know. And he gave me really good advice. One, I'm sure he told me to like relax, it's okay. But he told me what I should have done with the wheel. And so as I'm coming around the turn, for those that don't know, the keyhole is a right-hand turn just shy of a hairpin. It's a right-hand turn. And so as I spun, I was oversteering, so my back end was coming around faster, and I turned the wheel to the left to catch it,
mhm.
and it caught, but it also snapped in the other direction. And
Right.
so if you do these series of corrections, what he said was the first correction is one speed. So like you're already turned to the right. You feel yourself losing it, so you turn the wheel to the left, but you're going to snap in the opposite direction where you're going to want to turn the wheel to the right to fix it, but you have to turn the wheel to the right twice as fast as
Okay.
the left hand correction.
Oh, that's good.
I was like, that's absolutely brilliant. And then, I also do sim racing on PS4, PS5, GT Sport, and GT7,
Mm-hmm.
and I practiced it there, and it actually works. And I've certainly minimized my number of full spins anyway with that little correction. And he also said like when you race, and this was him also trying to help me like get out of my head when you race and you can nail that down, you'll see that racers are doing that all the time. Because if you're at the limit, it's going to happen. So it's actually a technique that you need to use often. So that was
Mm-hmm.
invaluable advice that I was given.
Wow.
All right, Miss Vicki, we're going to be respectful. So, one more from each.
Okay. Um, what that was a really good one.
You know,
Huh. So, what was the one car from your youth, your family, your neighbor, whatever that you remember was the car that sticks out most in your mind?
Um, I've had a couple good cars. When I have car envy, by the way, it's
Mm-hmm.
all cars. Like when I drive down the highway, before I really started getting the cars that I want, it was literally all cars. So I'm actually pretty bad with that one because it wasn't really one. So my car was really unassuming. I had a 1989 Honda Civic in like 2010 or 2008 that I bought for $500 and sold for $500. And this thing was the coolest little car. It was well taken care of, but you could sit in that thing, and that was before all the bulky dashboards came out. Like it was super low profile. You could fit like five 300-pound people in this car. It was so roomy. And
Wow.
everything was so like the steering wheel was thin and the gear shift was really thin and narrow. It was very comfortable and it just drove the way it was supposed to. And I had so much fun driving. It was slow, but it felt fast. It was low to the ground, but it just felt really, really cool. And it was a beater. And I bought it. I only bought it because I had a lease as a 20-something-year-old. I bought my first
Mhm.
lease. Terrible decision at that time because I didn't realize how many miles I drove. So I had to let my car sit. So I bought this $500 beater that I could drive all the time. I loved that thing. Super reliable. I mean, it's a Civic.
Hmm.
Right.
That was
All
That's
right.
fun.
awesome.
All right. Last one. Do you want a car driving related one or a non-car driving related one?
Uh, let's go non-car. I want to see what you got up your sleeve.
All right. You're going to
I
get
like
another
this
new one.
guy. I
You're going
really
to get
do.
your first one to get this one. We're calling this the Space Mountain Rushmore. Okay.
Space Mountain Rushmore.
All right. So there's 4 people on Mount Rushmore, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
So I need, you can do best or favorite, actor and actress, and musician or singer, both male and female. You have 4 spots. Who are they?
Who's your Mount Rushmore?
That's right.
Oh, for actors, actresses, or singers?
Actress, 1 actor, 1
Oh,
actress,
one. Yep.
1 male musician, and 1 female musician. Could be singer, could be musician, depends on your
Oh,
interests.
wow.
This is why we
Wow.
asked a hard-hitting question.
This is a good one. So I apologize for the silence, but I'm a processor and
That's fine.
a note taker. So I'll give you one to start off with.
You can change your answers on the next time you come on.
Ah,
Oh man. Okay, so I actually think that this one male actor or singer, depending on if I can fill the other category, um, is one of the most talented people on the planet, multifaceted, multi-talented, um, comedian, singer, actor,
so many.
Jamie Foxx.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Jamie
I was
Foxx.
about to say I'm not eligible, Brian, but that's fine. You can go with him too.
Oh,
Well, I still have one more male slot, Bill, so don't count yourself out too quick.
It's I'm just a host. I can't be eligible for these questions.
Let's see, singer, um,
Or musician. Could be.
or musician. Okay. Uh, I got to go with male musician, best musician of all time, Michael Jackson.
Okay.
Best actress. Um, oh wow,
No pressure.
these are tough.
That's why we don't get paid any bucks. We ask the hard questions.
Yeah. Let's see.
I mean, you could have got an easy one, like what was your favorite cereal growing up? I wanted to give you something hard.
Um, best actress. Well, okay, so I'm gonna qualify and say that might not be the best actress, but
Could be your
actress
favorite. Could be your
that
favorite.
comes to mind. My favorite. My favorite. I'm gonna go with Halle Berry.
Okay. Besides Catwoman, right?
Well, hey, we can't win them all.
No. She enjoyed that Razzie Award. She
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
she owned it.
And but I will tell you, I liked her as Catwoman, and I was young enough to appreciate the things that worked, and young enough to not notice the things that didn't. So if there was something
Okay.
off, I didn't see it.
That was a an example of a failed potential movie because that movie could have been spectacular.
Oh,
It was more in the writing than anything else.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
was that who was Batman in that?
nobody. There was
Oh, it's the Catwoman movie.
it was just Catwoman, and then Sharon Stone was the villain.
Gotcha.
We can do superheroes for quite a while.
I couldn't compete. Now my son, I might have to bring him on if you guys want to talk.
We got time.
Oh,
Hmm.
We spent 2 hours talking about Deadpool last night.
oh,
we-
nice. What do you think
most of
about
us.
what do you think about the latest one with Wolverine?
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Vicky
Yeah.
Vicky didn't stay awake for more than 15 minutes, so she didn't get to talk about it, but that's okay.
No, yeah, I could not participate in the podcast, but the movie was excellent. It really was. It was a good, big, stupid, fun summer movie. There was a lot of lot of Easter eggs in it, lots of
Okay.
Easter eggs. But he just Ryan Reynolds is like one of my favorite actors. He really is, and he did such a good job. And Hugh Jackman did a good job. They all did.
You know, he did that just to get time to figure out what his favorite male actor was, but that's fine. I mean, male musician. No, you did musician. You got to do actor.
So I did male musician. I'm on female singer.
Female singer. Okay.
But I'm pretty sure my mom has seen the latest Deadpool with Wolverine. I'm sorry, I'm not saying the name of it correctly.
That's fine.
I'm pretty sure my mom has seen that twice in the
Nice.
theaters.
It's a good movie. It's worth
Yeah.
seeing.
All right, female singer.
Female singer.
I gotta say, let's see. There's somebody on the tip of my tongue, and I can't recall, but she would have been influenced by Whitney Houston. So I'm gonna go with Whitney Houston.
That's a good one too.
Influenced by Whitney Houston's a lot of them.
Right. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm okay saying
Yeah.
Whitney Houston.
Mhm.
You know who I feel bad for? You ever watch like American Idol or The Voice or something, and somebody goes out there for their audition and they choose Whitney Houston. I'm like, you're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
That's a hard. That's
It is hard, but
it's hard to achieve right there.
Don't
It
choose
is.
Whitney. Don't choose Mariah Carey. Don't choose Ann Wilson. You know, aim for stuff you can look good compared to, because
yeah,
Straight.
unless Bill, they actually can nail it, and I've
That's
seen it
true.
happen.
it's a big risk, though.
It is a big risk. Yep, that's a make or break.
Yep.
Right there. But you know
Yep.
what? I'm going to give an honorable mention.
Mm-hmm.
Since you brought up American Idol, it made me think of the other shows. One who always gives me chills no matter what she sings is Christina Aguilera.
Oh, okay.
Every single time. Yep.
She can sing. She sings about jelly. I mean, marmalade or whatever, something.
Real
maybe
lady
it's not-
marmalades.
Maybe it's not jelly. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't speak French.
I don't know.
Did we get all four? I think we're missing one, aren't we? Did we get them all?
No, we got Jamie,
We got Jamie,
Jackson,
Michael Jackson, Whitney
Whitney
Houston,
Houston,
and Halle Berry.
and Halle Berry.
Yep.
All right. Well, those are
Okay.
the first answers. So far they're in first place.
Nice.
There you go.
The only ones receiving votes right now. So
Yep.
so Brian, we'll definitely have you on again. We may
This
bother
was
you.
fun.
We may bother you at Mid Ohio, but if people want to keep up with you and your racing, how would they follow you?
Well, I'm on Instagram at brian.parrish.racing. So Parrish has 2 R's.
2 hours.
On Facebook, I'm just Brian Parrish. Just friend me, and I'll have you join my Brian Parrish Racing Facebook group. And then on YouTube, I post my race videos at Brian Parrish 555.
Does that mean go, go, go?
Go, go, go. Go,
Go, go, go.
I have fun with the videos. You know, racing videos aren't always for everybody, but what I like to talk through my
Mhm.
videos and talk about what I see or what I'm thinking about. Yeah.
That's what I want. Because I do the same thing because it's you can only hear engine noise so much, right?
Yeah. You're just staring there looking at the same thing.
Yeah. It's like, wow, he turned left here again. That's it. That's 2 laps in a row. He turned left
Yeah.
at the left turn. Who knew?
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes like we've got a video that I'm still editing on. It was my first stint on someone else's car, and it was like, what was I thinking about as the stint progressed for 2 hours? Never been in the car, never been with that, and respectful of their car, and
Mhm.
some of it wasn't how fast to go around this apex, or there was other things that you need to consider, and hopefully the voiceover, if I ever finish it, will help somebody.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's cool. I think it just makes more sense, and who doesn't want a more engaging experience?
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's better than some people who do the words written on the screen.
right.
Yeah, I kind of like the voiceover, but I still
Yeah.
like to have a little engine noise too, so I can hear it. But it's
Oh
okay.
yeah. Oh yeah. It's funny. I'll get comments where you're like, "Well, you're so good at racing and talking while you're driving." I said, "Well, I did it after
No.
after I was driving." But I do. I will do the voice as if I'm in real time,
Yes.
so that the audience can hear my thoughts
Hmm.
and what I was looking at.
All right, so I can't wait to hear one of your voiceovers when Miss Vicky's either catching up or in front of and being passed on one of these videos coming soon.
All right, I'm ready for it.
Mhm.
I'm
Yep.
ready for it.
It could be mid Ohio if my beautiful bride would make a decision.
I have to check my calendar.
I, I know. That's fine.
One step out the door.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have a lot of stuff. I have so much piled up. I have so much piled up.
Well, I hope we get to see you guys. This has been a really, really awesome experience. Who doesn't love to talk about racing, and who doesn't love to talk about it with great people? And this is just another milestone for me. It's another
Hmm.
milestone along a journey that has looked just like this, right? So this is very cool.
Well, everybody who's kind enough to say that, I always have the same reply, and that's you need to aim higher, sir.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. Baby steps.
All right, very well. It was a pleasure having you on. Thank you, sir. Great time. Thank you.
Great time. Thanks, Brian.
My pleasure. Great to see you.